St. Joseph Cathedral Holo Prison, Vietnamese Woman Museum, Vietnamese National History Museum Tour.
Okay, so now I will talk about the Catholicism in Vietnam. Okay, so in the Spanish and the Portuguese missionary first set foot on in Vietnam in the 16th century. Although unsuccessful, the arrival of the Jews in the early 17th century had finally created a foundation with a local population in Tonkin and Cochinchina. When the Thesan movement successfully killed the Nguyễn Ánh, the most senior members of the family had that survived, fled to the south where he met Pygmalion, a French missionary. Pygmalion believed that his sentence will be vital to securing Catholicism's expansion in Southeast Asia expansion. He proceeded to act Nguyễn Ánh, escalating to military support when Nguyễn Ánh was in trouble at one point. Fast forward to modern times. During the South-North Vietnamese split, President Mo of South Vietnam pursued many policies that left the Buddhist community at a disadvantage. This involves social policy and favorism toward Catholics in many industries, especially the defense industry and government-related matters. And now Catholicism is still widely practiced and respected in Vietnam. It is more popular in southwest region of the country, with a number totaling to approximately 7 million followers. It is one of the most popular religions in Vietnam.
So behind me you can see the St. Joseph Cathedral, which also known as the Hanoi People Cathedral, is designed with French architecture and medieval Gothic style. And this site was inspired by Notre Dame in Paris, with the pointed arches and terracotta bricks. And there's also a twin bell tower inside on this church with a height of 31.5 meters high. And there's also many stained colorful glasses with wooden carvings is designed in this church in purpose to fill the interior with nature sunlight. And there's also some Western architecture style, for example, like the bong bell inside the church and the fainted clock in the church too. And there's also the interior Western architecture with many flower beds and leaving a historic and active worship, an active place to worship. And in the site was Bảo Thiên Pagoda in Lý Trần dynasty, and in the 18th century it was repurposed as a marketplace, and it was returned to the Vietnamese government in the French time, and the French has rebuilt this pagoda and it has become the St. Joseph Cathedral. And the currently father of this cathedral is that Binh Quý.
Okay, so now I will introduce you about Hoa Prison. Okay, so Hoa Prison, located in the heart of Hanoi, is one of Vietnam's notable historical sites. It was built by French colonial authorities at the end of 19th century and was originally called Basic Central or Central House. The prison was used to detain political prisoners and Vietnamese revolutionaries who opposed French rule. And the construct with solid architecture was designed with small cramped cells and strict layouts to prevent escape. The prison witnessed numerous tragic events and is known for its harsh condition, where many Vietnamese revolutionaries were tortured and subject to brutal treatment. During the Vietnam War, Hoa Prison was used by the People's Army of Vietnam to detain American prisoners of war, including pilots and officers. Due to the severe condition, American prisoners often mockingly referred to it as Hanoi Hilton. Today, Hoa Prison has been transformed into a museum showcasing historical artifacts and material related to the prison's lives and the nation's struggle for independence. It is a popular attraction for both domestic and international visitors who come to learn about Vietnam's story and pay tribute to those who sacrificed for the country's independence.
This is Hoa Prison, and this prison was built by a French colonist in 1896. And this prison is land in Hoa Lo village, and it is spanning almost 13,000 meters square in total. And you can see in the gate is the word Maison Central, and in French translate to English it is Central Prison. It is in the middle of Hanoi, and it was jailed. It's in purpose to jail revolutionary prisoners from Vietnam. And there's in all four sides of the prison there are 4 meters high walls and with the thick of 0.5 meters, and on top of them there are many broken glasses and many high electric wires around to prevent prisoners inside the prison to escape. And there are also 4 sections inside the prison. There are A, B, C, D, and A and B stand for awaiting trail prisoners and dangerous prisoners. Section C is for French prisoners and foreign prisoners, and Section D is awaiting death prisoners, especially Vietnamese revolutionary prisoners. And in 1899, this prison hasn't done building, but it has to immediately go and work because many revolutionary revolutionary people from Vietnam has attacked the French, and they have to start using the prison immediately to prevent Vietnamese from taking over French. And there's also one fact that in the period that Japanese attacked French, 100 revolutionary prisoners inside the prison has escaped in that period, and they has escaped successfully and retell the story. And inside the prison there's also many high-tech gears for the warden and for the staff, the prison staff, to control the crowd and to punish the prisoners from Vietnam.
Now I'm gonna introduce you about the Vietnamese Woman Museum. Okay, so the Vietnamese Woman's Museum located in Hanoi. This is a unique museum dedicated to showcasing the roles, lives, and contribution of Vietnamese women, both art, history, and culture.
Established in 1987, the museum houses over 25,000 valuable artifacts, including traditional clothing, jewelry, work tools, and documents on women's movements. The museum focuses on three main themes: women in family, women in history, and women's traditional fashions. This exhibition highlight women's role in family life, their economic and cultural activities, as well as their participation in Vietnam's war for independence. In addition to exhibits, the museum hosts education activity and events to honor Vietnamese women and promote gender equality. It is a popular destination for visitors interested in exploring and gaining deeper insights into the culture and history of Vietnamese women. About the history of this museum, the Vietnam Women's Museum was established in 1987 under the Vietnam Women's Union with the function of researching, preserving, and displaying tangible and intangible heritage about the history and culture of Vietnamese women. Since its inauguration in 1995, the Vietnam Women's Museum has successfully exhibited many exhibitions, serving hundreds of thousands of domestic and international visitors each year. The museum has also developed a collection of more than 25,000 documents and artifacts related to Vietnamese women. At the end of 2010, the Vietnam Women's Museum repainted its permanent exhibition system after 4 years of closure for updating and adjustment with key themes: women in the family, women in history, and women's fashion. And the main building of the museum is divided into 4 areas, including permanent exhibition, special exhibition, and discovery home and souvenir shops. Special exhibitions are held near the main building.
This is Vietnamese Women's Museum that represent over 1,000 artifacts that has represented by 3 floors, second floor, third floor, and fourth floor. Represent the artifacts that has found in the period from 2006 to 2010. And first, we have the second floor. It represents the woman's job and their family. So it represents the timeline of a woman from adulthood to marriage and to born children. So it will represent how the ways, various type of ways to marry a man and their job and their family, to grow the children, grow the family, like cooking, preparing food, and study and teach the children. And we start with and next we have the third floor, which represent the sacrifices of Vietnamese women in Vietnamese wartime. So it will represent the job of the woman in the warring timeline, from fighting invasion from the foreign countries and their contribution to help their husband fight against the foreign, like preparing food or growing the children, so many generations can start joining the war to defeat foreign countries. And with the fourth floor, we have Vietnamese women beauties and fashion. So it will represent 54 types of Vietnamese women and 54 types of Vietnamese traditional clothes and stuff. And there's one special that Hmong people has a sharp tooth necklace around their neck, and it will also represent many touching husband tradition from many type of Vietnamese people, a Vietnamese woman. And additionally, there's also one magic machine that has found in, and it is now placed at the museum fourth floor, that if you circle that machine, it will make you have husband. And there's also many online museum. There's also many online web that can represent this museum.
Okay, welcome to our next destination. This is the Hanoi Opera House. As you can see right in front of it. And I'm just going to talk to you about some of its history and architecture features. So the entire construction process took around 10 years from 1901 to 1911, and it was one of the free French opera house that the French colonial administration built in Vietnam, including the Hai Phong Opera House and the municipal opera house in the Ho Chi Minh City. As for its architecture, you can see that it's entirely built according to the French architecture, and most of it is inspired by the Palace Garnier, which is an opera house in Vietnam. Its design and size, as well as the material used in construction, has been appropriated for the local areas. If you look at the paint, it is quite evident that they have also added a touch of yellow, which is very common in French architecture too, just to complement the beauty of the sunshine in Vietnam. If we talk about the style architecture of the opera house, we can classify it as neoclassicism. And when the French was defeated and left the northern region of Vietnam, this opera house remained as a scene for a few center political events, and also as one of the places where many of the street fighting in Hanoi took place. In the vicinity of this area, the Hilton Hanoi Opera Hotel, its name is inspired, or more, I would say it was given by the opera, and the opera has also gave the name to another hotel, which is named the Gallery Hotel de Opera, which opened in 2011, and the Hanoi Hilton Opera Hotel was opened around 12 years prior in 1999. As for its history and performances, in 1902, Lache Arau, which was one of the French reformers hired to, who was, let's say, in queue for the performance to start, and he wrote down in his memoirs that most of the performers inside of the opera house at that time, and the performances mostly relies on French and Italians, relying on them to perform the repertoires, which is often held during that time. And the audience is primarily around, I would say, 90% French, and only around 10% of the Vietnamese elites. After that, the usage of the opera house actually dropped significantly during the Vietnam War and the First Indochina War for obvious reasons, and it was restored and brought back into working condition somewhere around the 2000s, I believe. And the Vietnam National Symphony Orchestra operated synonymously with the opera's orchestra. So from then on, the opera house remained until today one of the places where many Western classics performances are held, as well as many Vietnamese traditional performances of authors, which from then an extract of their book is performed, like Liu Guanghu and many other authors too. If you know about Swan Lake, a Russian performance, it is also sometimes held here. And also, in order to adapt with the modern environment and how the tradition has evolved, many Vietnamese modern performance is also being introduced here and have received a lot of warm welcome. Welcome to our last destination, and this is the History Museum of Hanoi. As a brief rundown of what it was used for, so initially it was one of these institutes of the French School of the Far East of 1910. It was extensively renovated and fixed, I suppose, in 1920, and by 1926 to 1932 it was redesigned by a French architect. By 1958, it was acquired by the Vietnamese government, and they have expanded the collection to contain Eastern culture, Eastern history, and artifacts. The museum highlights around 300,000 to 400,000 years of history. Up to the August 1945 revolution, it has over 200,000 exhibits displayed covering items from prehistory to 1947. Revolution and founding of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, arranged in 5 major sections. Let's talk about one of the major content of the exhibitions in the museum, and it is the Đông Sơn culture. So Đông Sơn is a location in Thanh Hóa where most of the artifacts was found. One fun fact, the artifacts that are displayed here are found all throughout Vietnam, Laos, and China. But Đông Sơn is where most of that particular type of artifacts are found. The reason is that Đông Sơn, back at that time, the advanced handicrafts skills of Vietnam created, just propelled our country at that time, our reputation as the workshop of Southeast Asia. Back at that time, tools were mostly bronze because it was easy to wield, extract, and forge. As the primitive blacksmiths did not have the advance or a heat source that is hot enough to melt and create iron tools. As for the governmental structure of pre-Đông Sơn culture, it does have a basic form of government. As for the geopolitical structure, the geopolitical situation at that time, Vietnamese, one of the more famous generals who was responsible for uniting China, and that was when Vietnam was truly threatened, because if China as a whole, when united, all of their might will be utilized correctly, and that is when they are able to start invading neighboring countries, including Vietnam. The first kings of the Vietnamese government were the Hùng kings, and there was a myth about how magical their defenses were, and fun fact, we cannot find any temples dedicating to worshipping them outside of the top, despite his reputation of ruling over large countries. So that raises some questions whether or not the temples are destroyed, or the speculated territories was not as large as historians have initially thought. Cổ La, the first major city that got a very large defensive network, which is all throughout Planet. This is how it is structured. So the city was protected by 9 interlane walls, with trenches and residences of peasants interlaid between the walls as additional protection. This allows for the ease of defense against attackers, since they would have required additional effort to crush through the walls and the trenches filled with water. So it makes it really hard to attack too. One of the more magical weapons in the myth of Cổ La was the crossbow, Hauser. The magical crossbow that Thục Phán, who was the king, possessed a magical quality that allows it to shoot thousands of arrows according to this. But we have been able to excavate crossbows that have been able to fire as much as 5 arrows, which is really powerful at that time. The primitive technology, and that added as an additional offensive defensive layer to Cổ La's overall arsenal, which is why has earned its reputation in its year as a nearly impenetrable fortress, and it has also stood for a very long time. Dongsun's bronze drums. We're circling back to that civilization now. It was not the most intricate. That title should be given to Hanam's bronze drums. Many of these artifacts were buried during Chinese invasions, so that the resident owner will be able to protect their wealth from pillagers and just retrieve the rich later on. But many of those owners were slaughtered, and nobody knew the location of these drums or wealth that was buried in the ground until somewhere around the 2000s, where people started to renovate or excavate their homes, that they have found these artifacts, and it was sold and valued for as much as 3 billion Vietnam dong, and many of them are sold privately for profit. Historically, Dongsun's bronze drum was made somewhere around 2000 BC. At that time, there were 3 cultures coexisting at the same time. The patterns are considered very intricate, symmetrical, and complicated. Looking at the smaller details, their creator must be so sophisticated to develop such complex mathematical tools that allow for a bronze sculpture, because, first of all, it's like using a surgeon's tool. It's got to be very precise, and it is a very impressive feat that our ancestor has been able to do that. Secondly, and mathematically, these drums are very accurate in terms of geometry. So that also came as a surprise to historians too, I suppose, when they first excavated them, for it was really advanced and far ahead for its time. These details on the drum, it shows us into the past of Dongsun. As evidence on the drum, the center depicts the sun yang element, and the pattern between the arms of the star may depict the cervix, representing a woman's importance in sustaining the community as a childbearer, and also as a sustainer. Yeah, I suppose. The Dao Ting jar. It is a burial jar. You can see it right past the Dongsun cultures section. It was found during a landslide next to a Red River Dao Ting. This is a representation of the Phuntuk culture, which worship fertility. If you look on the handle, you can see that it is depicting 2 males and females figure having intercourse with each other, hence it was named Phuntuk, aka fertility. The boat coffin right behind that coffin contained the wealth of the particular person that has passed away, as well as the body itself. The social role and nobility of a person can be ruled out by considering how the amount of bronze artifacts present in a coffin, or let's say valuable things that were considered at that time. How much is it contained inside a coffin? Bronze drums and other metalworking objects were prohibited under the Chinese rule. Hence, we see less and less of bronze drums during that time, since our ancestors had to hide from forging them, and they have also dwindled in size because the material to make them is much harder to acquire. Most of our metal stocks and tools were wrought by the Chinese, and that also makes the pattern less intricate, and that's all. Yeah. Worshipping fertility is still the primary belief during this time. Elephants are added onto the top of the drums too, as a symbol of power and strength. Historical artifacts at this time are very intricate, seen on the tableware and decorative details.
Alright, let's keep talking about the Chun dynasty. Chun Tudor was the person who manipulated the Li dynasty to consolidate power under the Chun, to just like a very forceful power transfer. This gave birth to Chun Gukun, a very talented person who was extensively educated from an early age, and sometimes personally by Chun Tudor himself. Chun Tudor was a very controversial historical figure as for his political moves to force kings to resign or kill themselves, or just marry somebody outside of the Li family so that power will be transported elsewhere, and in this case the Chun family. He was the Chun Gukun. Let's talk about him. He was given the task to avenge his father, Chun Tudor, from Chun Tudor's political involvement. He was the first and only military commander to be given the title king.
After his death, he was greatly commemorated by the royalty through the constructions of numerous temples and monuments. The whole dynasty, which succeeded the Chen dynasty. They stole the throne through forcing the king to hang himself in his bedroom, same as how the Chen family did to the Li dynasty. So we have gone full circle here. And history always repeats itself. Spanning only 7 years of power, the Hou Huili and Hou Hantung, descendants of Chen dynasty, they failed to unite the people in order to rise against the Chinese when they once invaded again. Descendants of Chen dynasty even request China to destroy Hou Huili, thus on a justified crusade by China. And they just, well, now we have a valid reason to invade, and we're gonna do it. After that, the Chinese called all the Chen dynasty descendants in one place and executed them all. The Ming dynasty then took control of the country. After that, the country was plunged into a very dark state until the eventual Lemsun uprising, the Mạc dynasty. So during the end of the Li dynasty, king fell into a very degenerated state of not ruling over the country, not watching over it at all, and they enjoyed a luxurious lifestyle. This is when Mạc Đăng-dung decided to take over and started his Mạc dynasty. Moving on to the Champa dynasty, many of our modern practices today were influenced by Champa. For example, Bắc Ninh traditional music. They also worship the male and female genitalia, just like how the Đông Sơn culture regarded fertility as their ultimate worship. Moving on to the Ốc Eo exhibit, it was the prehistoric exhibit, and we are going to talk about the Ốc Eo civilization. It existed from the 1st century, and this civilization was very prosperous. Phu Nam was where the first modern port of Vietnam was created. Currency at this time were determined by the weight of the material. I suppose it was they have bars of irons or bronze or metals that were deemed valuable at that time, and they used the weight of that to trade. And the unconventional practice of cutting metals, cutting coins into smaller portions for payment was really much enjoyed by the people at that time. So imagine you have a modern coin which is circular. It can be cut into four parts equally and used for payment, which is an very interesting part of that culture. We're talking about the prehistoric history. Modern humans originated from monkeys to Homo sapiens. Gradually, humans found shelter in caves, and these living quarters are designed a section as follows. Higher elevated stone slabs are designed for the living quarters and also for resting. Lower areas are used for cooking and normal communal purposes. Enclosed sectors with natural openings are reserved for raising infants and where women reside, so that they can protect them from the natural aspects, rain, and storms, and animals. Many things that existed back then that was a threat to the primitive human. Most of them relied on a local supplies of food. One of the food sources displayed in the exhibitions are plants dug and cooked by prehistoric humans.